Okay, next thing we're going to do is get the torque tube ready here to go into the boom. Make sure we pull out this 600NT 3BA bag. This is going to have the bearing and the little plastic grommet that we're going to use inside the bearing, or around the bearing that's inside the torque tube. So what it says here in the manual is we've got the torque tube and there's this central point, and then it says to put the bearing 5 to 7 centimeters off of the center, which is 50 to 70 millimeters, or I don't know, I'm just going to do 6 centimeters, which is 2.4 inches, or 60 millimeters. So got that measured out on the calipers. We're going to find the midpoint, and by comparing it to the boom, we find the midpoint at about here. You can also do a little balancing act to find where the midpoint is at. Found the midpoint right here, so I'm going to go off center 60 millimeters. So about right here is where I'm going to put some CA glue just along the boom. Just want to make sure you've got it off center, because if you do hit the center exactly, then you're going to have vibration problems. Alright, so you're going to get a thin layer of CA coming out. Nothing too thick. You definitely don't want to get CA in your bearing and cause that thing to lock up. That's the last thing you want to do. So just get a nice thin layer around inside there. Get your bearing on the end and slide it out to where the glue is, and then it should stay. Give it some time to dry, and then once we give it some time to dry, we're going to put this little plastic end piece right here. So we're going to put this around the bearing. Make sure still, it's looking like this is 60 millimeters from the center. Don't confuse that 5 to 7 centimeters with 5 to 7 millimeters, because you won't be off center quite enough. And once it stays there, we've got this in place. It's moving nice and smooth, and we're going to go push this into the boom. So in order to get this into the boom nice and smooth, what we're going to do is find this grease that we had earlier. We're going to grease this guy up really nice. Get him all nice and greasy. And make sure you get both sides. Run around the whole thing. And it doesn't really matter if this thing is facing forward or backward inside the boom, just as long as it's off center. So we're going to slide it down the boom. Let's push it in from this side. So we're going to line the inside of this with grease as well, just inside the boom. Because when we push it, we just want it to move nice and smooth. So pour a little grease in there, line the perimeter. Get this guy greased up real good. Add some tri-flow down here. Grease it up nice and good. And then you can go ahead and slide this in here. I want to put this in nice and level. Oh, looks like I might not have enough grease on this side. Greased it up. Once we get it started in here uniformly, just take your time, push it nice and smooth. We don't want the bearing to slip out of place. And then we've got that with the torque tube in the middle, and it moves nice and smooth. Now for the boom, make sure you understand there's two sides of it. There's one side here that has a full notch. That's going to go towards the front of the helicopter. Okay? And then the back side, you've got a nice little hole in here. That's the back of the helicopter. Eventually this little thing right here, this plastic mount, is going to go here to hold it into place. So make sure you've got that set. This is the back, and since it's the back, we're going to get the back assembly put in here. First I'm going to move this torque tube down just a little bit at first. Move it down, and then I'm going to push from the other end here. I'm going to push the torque tube in and twist it a little bit because I want to make sure it gets inside the gears here. Actually, let me pull it out a little bit. Try to push this on here with the gears. Okay, so see, now that I've got the gears in place, you can turn the torque tube in the front, and you've got this moving in the back. You're going to end up lining up the holes here with this and putting the fin on, and then we're going to, after we do that, put this in the front block. You'll notice in the front block, inside here on the left side, there's a little protruding piece of plastic. That is going to line up with this indentation to make sure that this stays in line. So you want to put this in here. Ooh. Push this a little far out from this side. Actually, I think we're just going to finish this end. I'm going to put the fin on and screw it in with these screws that came with it to hold this whole tail piece in place. And then we'll come back and review and put the block on, and then look at the whole final tail assembly. Also, to make things easier for you, putting the fin on will be easy, but at this point you want to put the tail control rod guides on the tail boom before you put, the front and the back on, because trying to put those on later is going to be a pain in the butt. So we've got these right here. Make sure we just get those on here now while we can. Alright, and then we'll put the fin on that back here, and then we'll put the front block on. Okay, now we've got this all screwed together. 22 millimeter long bolts are going in here. The specialty screws on the outside. Make sure that you've lined the holes up in here, and you've put this little guide in there, and it's in the hole, and this thing's not moving. There was a little play when it was loose. In my experience, it's best to just kind of crank this counterclockwise as much as you can. So I did that and then tightened it. Got it nice and tight. We might have to line it up later. But now we've got the end of the tail ready to go. We still need to put it in the boom block. As we twist this, this is moving. Everything here is moving nice and soft and smooth. And at this point, make sure you've got these guides in here, because if you try to put them on after you've got the whole tail assembled, you're going to be kicking yourself, because you're going to have to take it apart. And the boom block, the straight part is the top, the gradual decline right here with the angle, that's the bottom. Put it in with the line, the little space, lined up with the little nub inside here. You're going to want to get it lined up. You have to take these apart just a little bit just to get that lined up. Okay. Got that in. Make sure you line up this slot with the little protruding edge. And then you're going to want to move this as you push it in. Okay, see how it went back in? Because the torque tube is going to be moving as you rotate this, and you're going to have to go into the torque tube umbrella gears. So you want to make sure when you're moving this that it also makes the tail move. And that when you move the tail, it makes those gears move. Okay. You might want to back it out just a hair on both ends. Some people say to do that. I usually put mine in nice and tight. I've never had vibration issues with that. So now we're going to pull out the screws as it says in the menu. Put the screws in these 4 holes. And there's also one in here that lines up with a hole to pin the tail boom. Tail boom's pinned on these things. Torque tube, it's a good way to go. And then after that we'll have the whole tail set up just about ready to go. And we'll come back and review once we've got that set. Okay, and there we have the final product. We found these 3x12 screws and the M3 nuts with the plastic. You don't have to thread lock these guys. Make sure you don't clamp them down too tight. You're compressing plastic here, so you just need it to be clamped. You don't need to just kill it, because then you might end up cracking your plastic here. There's also a little 5mm teeny tiny screw that you're going to put here, and the holes should be lined up. Make sure you've got it so that the holes are lined up. It's going to go through and pin the boom. Keep that boom from flying out on you in those fast pirouette maneuvers. Get all 4 of them, 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom. Just make sure you just compress it to where there's no space in here, and then another little tightening, and then that's all you need. And then once you do that, you can look down your boom, make sure this part lines up with this. Mine looks pretty good. I'm getting ready to put it into the frame. So frame here, some hardware. I'll also get to talking about these guys, some extra pieces of frame hardware. You can put them on there. It looks like they add some extra support. There's some functional reasons for putting these on. There's like a little mini servo here, but it looks like it's extra frame, thickness that could help protect it. So I'm going to put these guys on the frame. And then we'll put the boom on here. It's going to fit right into place. You're going to have to open the frame up just a little bit to get it into place, but there are little indentations where you will find it'll lock into place. And then you get the frame hardware screws with the washers, and put 4 on one side, 4 on the other side, and then we can move on once we've got the basic frame put together and set to go.